So when I get to talk with, teaching and learning experts like yourself, I obviously love talk about teaching and learning. I also love just hearing from teaching and learning experts just completely outside of that, whatever media. So I'd love to know, like, what kind of
Ah,
media are you consuming? It could be a book, music, film, online, social media, anything. What's something that you're enjoying right now?
I am enjoying reading this book series called Nevermore, and it's by
Oh,
Jessica Townsend.
okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this book. It's a series. It's four of them. So I read
Okay.
the first one, and
Yeah.
then I'm on to the second one. But I've actually gone back and I'm reading the first one to my kids when we go to sleep at night when I'm tucking them in. And it's just. It's just a fantastic story. Her writing is amazing. It's so fluid. It's so easy to get drawn into the story. The characters are
Yeah.
phenomenal. When I finished the first book, I almost felt like I wanted to cry because I felt like I was leaving good friends behind, right? And I
Yeah.
think that that's the goal of a really well-written story is
Yeah.
that you feel such a deep connection with it. And I think that this one in particular was really wonderful because, and it was a total surprise. Finding this book was a total surprise. I didn't go
Yeah.
looking for it. What happened was we were at the playground, and we're very fortunate to live in a community that values education so much
Mhm.
that we have these little public libraries, the little free
Yeah.
libraries. Have you seen
hmm
those?
Yeah, yeah. Almost looks like, I mean, it can look like a lot of things, but almost looks like a mailbox or like a bigger birdhouse or something. And just you walk past and like, oh, well, here's a cool book. Sure, let's check it out.
Exactly, exactly. And so I just happened to see this book sitting in there and it had lost the really beautiful cover. It was just the plain
Sure,
purple,
sure.
exterior. And so the
hmm
whole concept of don't judge a book by its cover absolutely applied here. And so I see this big purple book sitting in there and it's Nevermore written on the spine. And so I pick it up and I start thumbing through it and I'm just like, oh, we'll give this a try. We'll see.
hmm
It's a really thick book, so it'll give us lots of reading if it's a
Yeah,
good story.
yeah.
And the story is all about this young girl by the name of Morrigan Crow.
Okay.
And she grows up in this society where she is told pretty much every single day of her life that she is a cursed child.
Okay.
And so if you think about that, and sometimes some of the messaging that is applied to children who are neurodiverse,
Mm,
it struck a chord with me.
Sure,
And
sure.
so she grows up in this society where she's told that she's cursed.
Mhm.
And then through a series of miraculous events, which I will leave to your readers or your listeners, hopefully they'll go and they'll buy a copy of the
hmm
book.
Yeah.
Um, but through a series of events, she ends up in this magical world that sits outside of the world that she grew up in. And as the story unravels itself, you
hmm
find out that there's something very special and very wonderful about Morrigan. And she ends up going and living in this magical hotel that every night her bed changes. One night it'll be a canoe, and the next night it'll
hmm
be a hammock, and the next night it's this big grand Victorian bed because the room is learning and discovering who she is, and it's
Yeah.
adapting to her and what her preferences are. So it's
Ooh.
so cool. I just love this story and how it's written. And
Yeah.
she ends up making a really good friend. And she has this wonderful guardian while she's in this world. And he just takes fantastic care of her and shares so many wonderful experiences with her. Um, and towards the end of the book, there's kind of this question left hanging because she finds out that she has this very unique gift.
hmm
And there's this question of, is this unique gift something that's good or is this unique gift something that's bad? And is she going to end up going back to kind of the dynamic that she existed in before, where she
Yeah.
was told that she was cursed,
Hmm.
right? So there's this just phenomenal kind of cliffhanger, and her guardian is trying to tell her, no, you're special, you're wonderful. This is truly a gift, and
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
promise you, we're gonna get to the heart of how wonderful a blessing this really is for you. But yet
Yeah.
there's so many other people in this society who don't take the time to really understand what this gift is or what it really means. And they believing everything
Sure.
that they've heard through the centuries about how it's a bad thing.
Hmm.
So it's just got this really beautiful tie. And it's probably unintentional, but it's got this beautiful tie back to neurodiversity.
Yeah.
And I think how people have largely perceived neurodiversity historically, or at least over the past, few hundred years.
Hmm.
Interestingly, this is a whole other conversation, but I'll just give you a little
Sure.
teaser.
No, please do.
So, interestingly enough, in some of our ancient cultures, ancient civilizations,
Yeah.
they actually treated disability as though it was a gift.
Interesting.
hmm
Huh.
There is evidence in ancient cultures like ancient Mayans and Aztecs, where they believed that if a person was disabled, either physically or cognitively, that they were that way because they had been touched by the gods. They were special, and that their physical forms
Hmm.
essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here,
Sure, sure.
but essentially the idea was is that their physical bodies couldn't handle the power from the touch of the gods, and that's why they
Okay.
were different physically. And so it's really fascinating to look at how disability has looked was viewed in those earlier cultures. They were very much so valued and respected, and treated as though they were special because here they were touched by the gods, right? This is somebody who's remarkable, and we should
Yeah.
value them and care for them in a way that is best and most appropriate for what they need.
Hmm.
And then there was this really interesting shift that occurred. And then once we get into like ancient Rome,
Okay.
we start to see people take this mindset of, you have a difference, and that's fine, but you're still expected to be a part of the society.
Mm.
So you are going to have a job, you are going to work, you are going to be a meaningful contributor to
Sure.
our economy.
Sure.
And there's this really great record that I came across in which there was a person um, who was deaf and couldn't afford public representation. And so the court treated that like essentially gave them the equivalent of a public defender, right? They
Oh.
weren't, yeah, they weren't just treated as though,
Huh.
oh, this person's deaf, they can't communicate, let's just put them away.
Yeah.
Which obviously we never want to see anything like that. But
Hmm.
but they were treated with the same rights as everybody else, right? And so then it's only when we get into sort of more recent eras where the recommendation for people who had differences was to institutionalize them. So
Hmm.
many people are probably aware of Temple Grandin, who is very famous for the work that she's done, and she happens to be autistic. And
Sure.
when she was a child, um, so this is, just recently. I mean, she's still alive, but just when she was a child, when she was 3 years old, the doctors told her mother to put her in an institution because she would never be able to thrive. And
Yeah.
here she's got multiple books. She's got
Hmm.
the most successful. I think it has to do with I think it's packing and processing, but it
Sure.
has to do with cattle and livestock. She's got one of the most consulting firms in the United States about
Whoa.
this. She
Whoa.
speaks internationally. I mean, so like you think about uh, a doctor saying she's never going to be able to contribute to now seeing what she's achieved in her lifetime.
Hmm.
Like it just that's one of the reasons why I do this work, because I think it's so misunderstood.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
we don't create those opportunities and those spaces for people to thrive, then we're never going to see what they're capable of. We're never going to see the remarkable things that they can do. Like I said,
Yeah.
she's got one of the best businesses in that area. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, she dramatically changed that industry with her work. So by limiting people who think differently,
Yeah.
we are limiting the potential of our society as a whole.
Which is just a great, I mean, just to kind of summarize, Megan, thank you so much just for all that you've been sharing with some fantastic ideas about just supporting everybody, about the value of it. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the insights that you're giving. It makes a difference, and I appreciate being able to learn from it. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear what's the next thing that you're working on, and how can people support your work?
I've actually got some really exciting news. Um, my good friend Adam Davey and I are editing a book titled Advancing Learning Design in the Age of AI.
Yeah.
Um, and this is, I think, going to be a really important work for us to be focusing on. There's a call for proposals that's out on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Um, and if anybody is interested in contributing a proposal, I would absolutely encourage it. But I think really the way that we can continue to support this work is just to be having these conversations, right? Like
Yeah.
AI is transforming what it is that we do as
Yeah.
designers.
Yeah.
And we need to be paying attention to that. And there's
hmm
a pivot that needs to happen. And so that's essentially what this book is trying to capture. It's trying to capture those conversations that are happening right now. So you can take a piece of information. You can take an article and feed it into AI
hmm
and ask it to generate reading questions. And
Yeah.
it will generate the questions within seconds, which is faster than I can read the article and faster than
hmm
I can generate those reading questions for a
Yes.
faculty member, right?
Yeah.
And something like that, where it's a direct input and output, it's usually pretty accurate. So there's not a lot of second guessing that really needs to go on with something like that, although I always recommend checking because you never know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but that can be sort of a low barrier
hmm
thing that you can do with AI. And I think that
Yeah.
there's other tasks that we can do as learning designers. I do not recommend asking AI for learning objectives ever, ever.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
Um, okay, good, good. And I mean, I went through a truly phenomenal program for instructional design and technology, and we were taught to write 3 and 4 part learning objectives.
Sure.
And interestingly enough, it's so surprising to me how many people don't know what a 3 part or 4 part learning objective is. And sometimes I'll see learning objectives that other instructional designers have created, and I'm like, it'll say define this term, and you're like, that's that's not a learning objective. And so AI has a tendency of doing a very similar thing
hmm
unless you tell it very specifically,
Sure.
I want it formatted in this way. And even then, it still can struggle to get things the right
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So I still suggest humans going and writing those learning objectives. And if you're not familiar what a 3 or 4 part learning objective is, I encourage you to go out and just do a little bit of research.
hmm
It's not difficult. It just
Yeah.
really provides us with criterias and behaviors for making sure that those students can demonstrate that they met that goal.
Yeah. Wonderful. No, great. I look forward to seeing what happens of your book. Love some great takeaways there. And again, for our viewers and listeners, again, we'll have links to Megan's website, how to get in contact with her. We'll also include social media, how to connect to there and things on those lines. Megan, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you so much for the insights you're sharing. Really appreciate that you were able to connect with the Association for Distance Education and Independent Learning.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate this, and I love sharing this work with other people. So thank you.
All righty. Take care, everybody.